Welcome in, everybody. This is DodgerHeads presented by DodgerBlue.com. I'm Scott Geirman, staff writer at Dodger Blue, but I'm your host today. First time in a long time. I'm joined by Matt Moreno, executive editor, Dodger Blue, Blake Williams, our managing editor, one of my good guys. Yoshinobu Yamamoto made his second start of the spring. We're going to start there. Final line was 3 innings, 5 earned runs on 6 hits, 3 walks with 4 strikeouts. Dave Roberts had a lot of good things to say about him. There was a lot of good stuff we saw. Overall, Yamamoto said the start wasn't that great. Too many walks, too many balls, but there's some things he wanted to try, testing a lot of things, and he said it was overall a good start for him. Matt, what did you really see out of Wednesday's start from Yoshinobu?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I know we're going to get into it. The defense and particularly the left side of the infield didn't necessarily do him any favors. So that was certainly a factor. But also, in the first inning, he had some trouble landing his curveball for strikes. Just some of the overall, command and control was a little bit shaky. He wasn't quite as sharp as what we saw in his first spring training start for the team. All that being said, like you alluded to, Yamamoto mentioned that he was able to still work on some things. He also mentioned that he just wasn't comfortable out of the stretch, which he spent a lot of time in the stretch. So that was, a little bit of a recipe for not a disaster, but it could kind of explain some struggles. And I think it is, Austin Barnes said it. It's another reminder, like he is human, right? And there are going to be days, some starts where he's not as sharp as others. It happens to everybody. Fortunately, it was just spring training. And I know there's maybe some pitch tipping that's been involved with Yamamoto. And so I sort of think that perhaps one of the things that he was maybe working on in this start was some of his hand placement and grips to not maybe give a tell.
Yeah, Mark Pryor alluded to that after his first start, that there might have been some issues with tipping. They don't seem too concerned about it. Yamamoto, I mean, results aside, we always talk about that in spring training, that results, when it's good, then you highlight it. Then you go, be excited about it. But when they're bad, you just chalk it up to spring training. I think with Yamamoto, a lot of it is going to be comfortability and just seeing how he can repeat his stuff. And just like he said himself, he's working on a lot of things. But it did take him, I believe, 58 pitches to get through 3 frames, something like that. Blake, do you think that, sometimes if he's tinkering with some stuff, there might be some hiccups there? Are those to be expected?
Yeah, I mean, he's a very accomplished pitcher, as we know from his time in Japan, but he's also still adjusting to the major leagues, and stuff like that is always going to come up. The baseball's different. He's pitching on a new schedule, and yesterday he just didn't really have his command there, and that was the main issue for him. So I think as he starts getting his feel more and he adjusts better to the baseball, he's going to get that command that's been so highly praised. Brandon Gomes said he's one of the best command pitchers he's ever seen, and he's had an 80 grade command rating. So whenever that doesn't show up, he's not going to be as effective. That's the same with any pitcher, but specifically for a guy who relies so much on his command, he just didn't have it there yesterday. And like you said, he was going through things in spring training. So I wouldn't be too alarmed with anything yet. It was one poor outing while he was working on things, and I expect him to be better going forward.
Absolutely. Yeah. He's logged 7 strikeouts over his 5 innings of work. And we saw, this is going to lead us into our next topic. It's a very hotbed topic so far, but a handful of ground balls, a lot of them. Is that something, Blake, that you really like to see out of Yamamoto so far?
I do like to see it a lot for a pitcher, because obviously when you keep the ball on the ground, you're not going to be giving up home runs. The only issue is ground balls tend to have higher batting averages than fly balls, and especially when you have shaky defense behind you, that can turn into a disaster. Yamamoto, I think he was better than the results showed because of the batting average on balls in play. He was pretty unlucky there overall, with some misfortunate plays from the defense that didn't help him out at all. And I know we're going to get into the defense a lot. It's a big talking point for this, but he got no favors from his defense, and that kind of played into the poor outing.
Yeah, Matt, final thought on the pitch tipping. Do you think this is something that they kind of continue to work through, or do you think they can figure it out fairly quickly?
A little bit of both. I think I think it will take a little bit of time. So, fairly quickly, is it going to be addressed and solved within the next 2-3 days? Probably not, because that's something that, in my opinion, you can work on in your bullpen sessions, maybe in simulated games. But when you get into an actual game, do you revert kind of back to, I don't want to call them old habits, but old techniques, old form and stuff like that? And if Yamamoto has been doing something specific with 1 or 2 of his pitches throughout his entire career, it's going to take a little bit of time to sort of break away from that. And it's it's unfortunate because then I think you kind of also then start thinking about that and worrying about that, when in a perfect world, you want him out there kind of just thinking about the actual pitch and not like, is my hand, 1 inch too high? Is, what's going on right now? So that being said, Mark Pryor and Yamamoto both have said like they don't necessarily think it's a significant issue right now. So like, was he tipping pitches in the first start? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, it spawned from Rick Monday pointing it out from the on the Sports LA broadcast because of their camera out in center field, which thanks to the Astros, you're not allowed to use technology anymore in live feeds and stuff like that in the dugout. Yeah. So theoretically, if it's something that maybe was more prevalent or obvious from behind Yamamoto, then you just need to worry about if there's a runner on second base. Whereas if it was the batter, maybe picking it up, then it's more challenging.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. We've got to shift gears on to Gavin Lux, guys. It's just something we have to do. I'll give him some flowers so far about, he's appeared in 8 spring games so far. We're not talking stats with Gavin. Not right now. Power's not really there, but he's repeatability at the plate's been great. He's 8 for 23 so far. Knee looks healthy. He's running the bases hard. All looks good there, but his defense is still a work in progress. Dave Roberts said, quote, with Gavin, it's just more continuing to run him out there so he can build some confidence in how he's catching the ball, his footwork, and getting the ball across the diamond. I know that was a big struggle for him. With Matt, what did you see from Gavin Lux so far? And what do you make of the quote from Dave Roberts about really his footwork, getting the ball across the diamond? Just an easy layup for you.
Yeah. I mean, Dave getting behind Gavin Lux and, speaking highly and optimistically with him still isn't surprising at all. That's just Dave Roberts' nature. We've discussed that with other players in the past, and I know fans, maybe get a little frustrated, but Dave, he's just not the type of manager to come out and trash a player unless you're Sheldon Noisy in, extra innings. And he says, or it wasn't extra innings yet, but he did say that after that one post game, if he stretches out for the ball, then the game is over type thing. Mm-hmm. With Lux, there's some truth to, I think, what Dave Roberts said. And I think there's also some cause for concern. The footwork and stuff and getting to the ball, I think Lux has done okay in that regard. Some of the plays yesterday, having a range to his left, they're not necessarily routine plays. There have been other relatively routine plays that Lux hasn't completed. I think as much as, the footwork and everything kind of factor into the throw, I think it's the throwing that's really the biggest issue. And he just seems to be aiming everything to first base instead of letting it fly. Yeah,
because to your point, he had a play in the split squad game a few days ago. That was a great play. It was like that was it. Gavin Lux is back, something like that. But the throwing has been the issue. And the second part of the quote from Dave, he said, Dave Roberts, he says, but I think you just have to understand that it takes time to get back up to major league speed, and the feel once that bell rings, it'll be there when the time needs. But I think that's a quote that we really have to break down because. Is he answering that bell? It's been so alarming to the point that there haven't been much positives with it. He's been bouncing a ton of throws. Blake, I know, mentioned is the throwing speed on a lot of what Gavin Lux has been putting out there, which has been less than Seager. Blake, let me just get a little bit of your thoughts on what you've seen from Gavin so far, and really, what's your level of concern? What's your panic button now?
It's very high. I haven't seen any indication that he's going to break out of it soon. Mm-hmm. Bill Plunkett had a sentence in the OC Register that said Lux has made 2 errors this spring, one on a ground ball, the other on a throw. That throwing error is the only time this spring that Lux has gotten the ball to first base in the air. So I think that is a very concerning thing when you're thinking about it. So as you alluded to, Lux is one of the worst arms in baseball. He was in the bottom 10% of infielders in throwing strength with 76 miles per hour on his average throw. And that isn't just all around average, like making tosses over from second base. That counts for the top 5% of your hardest throws, the average of those. So to have an arm that weak at shortstop, it is concerning. And Lux is a guy who has dealt with the yips before. He's struggled with the mental side of the game previously, specifically when he was coming up during the COVID years. That was a lot of talking points for him, how he couldn't get back on track, always thinking about his struggles and not moving the page and kind of looking forward. So I think it is concerning from the mental side that Lux is still having these issues. And for a guy that has dealt with these mental struggles in the past, how is he going to deal with them moving forward? Because if he keeps making errors at shortstop, I don't see him being the type of guy to just find it one day. I feel like it's something that would snowball on him. So that's my biggest concern with him. And even before going into spring training, that was my biggest fear with him. He's always been a guy who's had these kind of troubles. So I definitely think it's concerning, and the Dodgers might have to consider making a change at some point if it doesn't get better.
Absolutely. So pause that. We'll get into that one. But I think you made a great point there. So he playing at second base prior to injury and then coming up through the system as a shortstop. Do you think there's anything to, when he was healthy, playing shortstop, going through the minor leagues, comes up to the bigs, plays second base, gets hurt, and then he's making the change over to shortstop? I think I'll stay and go to Matt here on this. Do you think there's a little bit to that now he's fully healthy, he's having to make a change over to shortstop, and there's some cobwebs there? Or do you think there's actually a real, I don't know if it's the yips, do you think there's like the cause for concern on, is he able to reacclimate himself to that position, somewhere where he once felt comfortable and now he's having to both feel comfortable with his body and reacclimate himself to a very premier defensive position?
I'm concerned because if it was, ground balls to his left or right, choppers that maybe he's booting, like that, I would chalk up to, Scott, you and I discussed this on our live show Sunday night. Like, he hasn't played baseball in a year. So your timing just isn't there. So if it was just he's not able to cleanly field, different ground balls and stuff like that, that would be more timing. But as Blake pointed out, like, we've unfortunately have seen, Gavin struggle with getting the ball to first base. And the majority of that, I think, happened when he was at second base, and Gavin has owned the fact that he wasn't comfortable playing that position throughout the offseason. At Dodger Fest, he told us when he was speaking with media that he was excited about being back at shortstop. He feels much more natural and athletic there. It's the position he grew up playing. So hearing that and then seeing that he's still having some of the throwing issues is concerning, because I feel like it's a repeat of before. And for me, like I said, if it was more of, he's maybe his first step to his left or right just isn't there yet, the timing isn't there yet, that I would be more, inclined to chalk up to, hey, he just needs to get his timing down.
Yeah. Either of you can answer this question. We can go to both, but scenarios as far as in-house stuff, I'm gonna stay away. I did this on our live show, man. I'm gonna stay away from immediate, trade stuff like that. We're gonna stick with in-house things. If the Dodgers, when I believe personally that the Dodgers will stay on a course to figure it out, with Gavin Lux, and I think they should. You've refrained from going the trade route. Right now it would have to be, in-house full panic mode. And I don't know if we've seen that yet. Dave Roberts is continuing to kind of, push that along, which he has to, he should, definitely. What in-house options could they do? What rotation do you think would be best served to kind of supplement the defense at shortstop? Is it just Miguel Rojas? Is it easy as that? Or would you kind of, for pure bat upside, kind of go with Chris Taylor there maybe? Blake?
Oh, Blake, you're muted.
Uh-oh. We might be going Matt.
Yeah.
All right.
So I think obviously Miguel Rojas is the first choice and the obvious candidate. He did fill in for Gavin Lux last year once he tore his ACL and LCL during spring training. It would be unfortunate because, I think, Scott, you and I especially, were a little bit more on the optimistic side with Lux heading into spring training and what he would potentially be able to do for this year. And, as much as Miguel Rojas does present an upgrade defensively, and that's something that Gavin Lux even acknowledged. I think it might have been in the LA Times. Somebody had a quote from Lux, and he said he thinks that Miguel Rojas is the best defensive shortstop in baseball. So the Dodgers would certainly gain some improvement there. But at the plate, we've seen Rojas sort of struggle offensively and be inconsistent. And that's where, we were hoping for some of the upside with Gavin Lux. But you and I specifically being optimistic about what he could bring to that 9 spot in the lineup and serving as almost a second leadoff hitter and hopefully turning the lineup over for Mookie and Ohtani and Freeman. Chris Taylor obviously is another option there. Kike Hernandez could, we've seen him play some shortstop. I know Kike didn't grade out well defensively last year at the position. I think he has since revealed, and not necessarily using it as an excuse, but sort of explained that he played through the hernia injuries for multiple years that he now had off-season surgery for. So if he's healthy, he is healthy now, and I think there would be reason to sort of expect him to get back to the level that we saw previously with the Dodgers when he was, the super utility guy. So yeah, I mean, the Dodgers fortunately do have some options, and I think honestly, it makes the Manuel Margot trade all the more important now, and getting Kike back in the fold, because if you need to go to him at shortstop, you do have that luxury.
Yeah, I mean, I really do agree. I think that on a couple of different spots, Kike Hernandez, that stuff is his own. He had to get that taken care of. I think the bat plays up there. Defensive wise, we need to link the video below, because that was a fantastic conversation about the shortstop position, mainly because the rest of the offense is able to supplement kind of a dip at, with the offensive production at shortstop. If it's the defense is kind of something they're coveting there, instead of continuing to go with Gavin Lux if he does keep his struggles. So what I wouldn't mind seeing, Miguel Rojas has a steady glove. You know exactly what you're getting there. So you're getting a nice baseline. Here's my ceiling and floor, Matt, that you love to point out. And it's important because you know exactly what you're getting. It's a consistent thing there. But I think the offensive upside with Gavin Lux and the athleticism is something I'll continue to hinge on. That's why I would like to see them exhaust all efforts with him instead of pulling the plug. And I think the Dodgers organization will stay on that same line. I know Blake, same thing, type of thing. But if the defense becomes a little more overwhelming, that's when, we'll do this on another video, but you have to shift, perhaps, go not in-house options, something else there. But I believe that they like who they have there. And to maybe appease Jeff at some point, they would consider Mookie Betts. But I think they want to keep guys in spots where they're comfortable and not shift too many people around, because Mookie Betts, by all counts, can win a Gold Glove at second base, while paying him superstar pay as a second baseman. He's going to give you perhaps the best production of any second baseman in the league. But we'll stay on the left side of the infield. We're going to go to Max Muncy. He's had some struggles this spring, same stuff as years past. Defense has been improving. Has it improved? We'll have to debate that between everything. But he had a ground ball in the third inning, one of many of Yamamoto's should have been outs. There was a bunt in there that was kind of an odd play, but the short hop that he couldn't field down the third base line allowed 2 runs to score. Dave Roberts said, I think with Max, it was a tweener. It was a backhand play. This spring, he's been very good defensively, getting off the ball. Muncy worked with a smaller glove this winter, and he's reportedly dropped, a solid amount of weight. And he looks really good. Offense is still playing upside. And for me, that's kind of where I hinge on Max. His bat's so good. Corner infield, it's important defense. But if your bat is so good and your offensive production is so high, you're able to outweigh that. And that's the difference between myself with Max and Gavin Lux. Matt, what have you really seen with Max Muncy to this point? And do you think we should be even close to concerned with his glove?
I mean, I've been on the concerned with Max Muncy train for a couple of years now. Yeah. He has shown some signs of improvement so far this spring. So that's encouraging. One thing he did say is he also worked on this past offseason on really getting his knees are in better. I think losing weight, getting in a little bit better shape has helped with his knees, which then has afforded him more flexibility and being able to kind of stay lower to the ground and stay down on the ball, which he admitted to having trouble with. So, we'll kind of have to see. He hasn't fully been tested this spring yet. He did, I guess that's sort of in between Hopper yesterday that Dave Roberts said, I thought probably was a play that should have been made. But, he still has there haven't been as many miscues with him as, maybe some of the other infielders.
Yeah, Blake, let's stay on the same point. Max Muncy, are you concerned with his defense at all? Was that play just something that it happens? That's a tough play for a lot of people. Are you in the camp with me that his offense is going to play so high up that you don't need to be concerned with it? Should it even be a conversation for us?
Yeah, I'm not too concerned with his defense. I mean, I don't think he's a good defender by any count, but I think he'll be passable enough there at the minimum to compensate for the offense he provides. I don't think third base is really a premium defensive position where you need to have an elite player over there. Yeah, it's nice to have that and it helps. But at the end of the day, keep Max Muncy's bat in the lineup and just deal with that defense. I think the bigger concern would be if he still struggles on defense and Lux is struggling on defense, because then you have an entire left side of the infield that is not good defensively. And I think that could end up causing some issues there. But as long as one of them figures it out, and ideally that would be Lux because shortstop is the more premium position, I think they'd be overall okay.
Yeah, I think that's with Lux, we just haven't seen him. We're hoping that he's healthy. We're hoping he continues to improve. And Max Muncy's, been there. We know exactly what you're getting. And as I quickly joggle some stats here together, since 2018, he's at 175 homers. So it's hard to really doubt that and push that away because we know exactly what we're getting. He's a premier bat. He's hitting in a premier spot in the lineup. So you know what you're getting and you know what you expect out of Max. And he's pretty consistent all the way across the board. So I'm with you guys. It's Max Muncy, someone will just take what we get with him. And I think that's okay. But, I think we covered exactly what we needed to with the defense. Yamamoto, we'll have to wait and see. But want to thank everybody for, checking this out today. Thanks for make sure you hit the subscribe, ring the notification bell. I'm going to be on here a bunch more. Thanks for Blake, Matt joining us today. Leave us in the comments your level of concern with Max Muncy, Gavin Lux, and Yamamoto. Did you like what you see in his last start? And do you really think there's any concern with his pitch tipping? Appreciate it, everyone. Thank you so much.